the time has come to put the brakes on immigration. Our country is cracking under the pressure, cracking at the seams to try and support the people we already have. We cannot support any more people. There is a housing crisis. There is a cost of living crisis. There is a rental crisis going on in this country right now, and we cannot afford more people. We just can't. The amount of people that we have accepted since COVID is astronomical. These are ratios of immigrants that Australia has not seen before. And we cannot support them. We just can't. The Australian government is metaphorically standing there, mopping the floor with an overflowing sink without turning a tap off. If we turned the tap off, we could mop the floor successfully, empty the sink, and then try and accept people at a rate that makes sense, at a rate that's not going to destroy us. But instead, we're all standing here and no one has thought to turn the tap off, and anyone who says please turn the tap off, even if it's for a little bit, gets shouted down as a racist. I have been to housing inspections for subpar rentals, really crappy places, where the rent is astronomical. The rental price does not justify the house. Or the house does not justify the rental price, should I say. And at these housing inspections, there have been people from the front door out onto the fucking street wanting to take a look at this property. I have seen 30 to 40 different couples all checking out a house at once. That's insane. That's 30 to 40 different couples that everyone has to compete with. And not all of them are Australian citizens. And even in buying a house, foreign ownership of houses, when they should be going to Australians. We need the houses. We can't support the people that are already here. How are we going to support millions more people coming into the country? How? They say, yeah, Australia has a lot of land, alright? A lot of land, but the problem is that most of the immigration is focused on Melbourne and Sydney. None of the other cities. None of the other cities see quite the population boom that Melbourne and Sydney have seen. So what are we going to do about it? The Australian government is quite happy to sit on their hands and do nothing. It's time to sort the problem out. Sort it out. Cut it off. That's enough. No more. We need to solve the issue. Adding more and more people into the country is like putting fuel on a fire and then wondering why it's not going out. Why is the fire getting worse? I don't know. Maybe we should stop tipping gasoline on it. Do you understand? Sort the problem out. And to anyone out there who wants to say I'm wrong, to anyone out there that wants to call me a racist, go through new housing estates. Go to Clyde. Go to Werribee. Go to Tarneet. Go to Bacchus Marsh. Go to Melton. Go to the northern suburbs even. Check out all the new housing estates and you tell me, how many immigrants do you see there? And then come and tell me that I'm wrong. And it really is a disservice even to the immigrants that come here. Because they come here getting promised a better life, and then they get thrown into the middle of it all with all of us, with the cost of living, housing, rent. There's just more people you're adding in to suffer. And that's a cruel injustice to not only the Australian people, but also the people you're accepting into the country. An extremely cruel injustice. Sort the problem out, and then we can think about opening the borders again and accepting people. And when it comes to the student visa, now I understand student visas. People want to come here and study. I understand that. Because, that's what we offer. Stop students buying houses at the very least. Please stop them buying houses. Let them come here and rent only. Why? Because they're meant to be temporarily here. They're not meant to be here permanently. They're studying. They're here to study. And the same with people who come here on temporary work visas. Let them only rent. Don't let them buy. The only people that should be buying a house are people that actually live here, that are permanent residents or citizens. And that is where we draw the line. Citizens and permanent residents buy a house. Everyone else, fucking renting. Now we've freed up the housing market just in that one move. It's not hard to solve the issue, but the government doesn't want to. I don't know how many times we're going to have this discussion. But I don't want to have it again, to be honest with you. But I feel like I'm going to have it again, and again, and again, until something actually gets done. The government, you have a lot of things to work out now. And this is not our fault. Because as a taxpayer, I'm sick of footing the bill for your mistakes and your inaction. I'm sick of my taxes going up to try and support more people here, when I didn't ask for these people to be here. I've actually asked you to solve the issue several different times, and so have many, many, many other Australians who have all asked you to solve the issue, and you have done nothing. In fact, you have done worse than nothing. You have accepted a record number of immigrants in the last few years since COVID than any other time in Australian history. Solve the issue now. Simple as that. Close the floodgates, turn the tap off, mop the floor, empty the sink, and start again. Simple as that.
Right now we have the highest immigration we've ever had, 10,000 a week.
In 23 to 24, we allowed 210,000 or thereabouts into Australia.
Around 40,000 people left Sydney to move to another state in Australia.
Quality of life, childbirth, home ownership, every metric is dumping.
Can we just talk about Australian immigration for a second, please?
Australian migration system is broken.
They had to admit the obvious, that this population growth is causing the housing crisis. It is causing inflation.
To try and support the people we already have, we cannot support any more people.
And yet, what did the government do? Well, they brought in 105,000 migrants in just 1 month.
Australia pays an Indian migrant nearly $400,000 a year just for him to tell them there's too many white people in the country.
More people, fewer homes, skyrocketing prices, every Aussie's feeling the squeeze. Jobs are harder to find, rents are breaking records, and the dream of home ownership? Gone before it even started. The system isn't keeping up, and everyday Australians are paying the price. Let's hit 1,000 subs before the month ends and talk about the chaos. Subscribe now.
I find these comments really funny, that immigrants are good for the economy. Right now we have the highest immigration we've ever had, 10,000 a week. Our population grew by 2.5% and our economy grew by... Wage growth has slumped, quality of life, childbirth, home ownership, every metric is dumping. What economy? Whose economy are immigrants good for? Like us, the Australian, or is it for the multinational corporations? In the same time period that immigration is at its record level, every other metric through which you can measure Australia's economic performance and even social performance is low. The Reserve Bank of Australia has finally admitted that these record levels of immigration are actually wreaking havoc. They had to admit the obvious, that this population growth is causing the housing crisis. It is causing inflation. All these people who try to blame the economic failures we're seeing now on institutions and policy. If you took away properties, all the Airbnbs, anything that you could have otherwise blamed these crises on, so long as the migration continued at the rate it currently is, it'd inevitably catch up. The fact of the matter is, to improve the lives of Australians who are here now, we need to address the insane immigration crisis that we're facing.
That the harbour city is losing twice as many people aged 30 to 40 as it gains.
Every day now it feels like stories like this are coming out, but they always leave out one statistic. ABS data from just last week shows that around 40,000 people left Sydney to move to another state in Australia, while at the same time, over 170,000 international migrants moved to the city in the same year. This means that people are actually leaving, and Sydney's population is naturally decreasing, but it's getting over and above replaced by foreign migrants. The data also shows that they're moving to places like Brisbane or Perth. Now, lots of people say that this is because of high house prices, and I agree, it partially is. But with cities getting busier, more stressful, more expensive, it also just comes down to livability. Another thing that nobody really considers is community. Sydney has more foreign-born population than New York, London, and Los Angeles. This is going to get worse if we do not start having this discussion.
Australia pays an Indian migrant nearly $400,000 a year just for him to tell them there's too many white people in the country. So this is Jiri Sivaraman. Here he is asking, why is it there are so few people that look like me? So this bloke left India, moved to Australia, somehow got a top position in our government, now complains there aren't enough Indians. And he's getting paid $385,000 to say there's too many white people. He says the media, politics, the judiciary are held by white people. But this is not the only instance of someone high up in Australian government being paid by Australian taxpayers advocating for higher Indian migration. Peter Varghese, who is the head of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, who headed the India Economic Strategy, said we should put more Indians in position of power in corporate and government roles. Mr. Varghese has said, I feel a strong connection to India. India was the birthplace of my parents. He was actually born in Kenya, so he wasn't even born in Australia or India, yet he still advocates for India's interests. So that's two examples in this video of migrants working in the Australian government advocating for the interests of a foreign government under the auspices of multiculturalism. To put it bluntly, I think these guys are threats to national security. I don't think anyone with loyalty to a nation other than Australia should be working inside the Australian government, certainly should not be allowed to call for demographic changes to suit their foreign interests.
Alright, so breaking news from the Australian migration system. Australian migration system is broken. Jeez, what an absolute chaffer. You must be thinking about what the hell is this man is saying. But my friend, this is all about the fact that the Australian migration system is flooding the country with low-skilled workers who are creating a drag on economy. Jesus, this is all about researchers have to say. Well, instead of that, Australia are looking for more workers with a critical skill in a global demand, such as engineering, medicine, and teaching. But what Australia getting at the moment is all about the migrants with the low-skilled workers in, my friend, agriculture and hospitality, which has only contributed to Australia's sluggish economic growth, my friend. So this means the current migration system is putting a handbrake on higher wages. See you later, Coba.
Alright, this is a shout out to Chris Minns, the New South Wales State Government. I just got a message on my social media from a truckie. He said to me, this housing crisis in New South Wales is a bloody joke. He just went and got applied for a rental, but there's 100 people lined up. He said there's like that every single weekend. Now he told me that his wife and his kids are living with her parents. He's living in his truck full time because they can't get a rental. Now, I've got a solution for you, Chris Minns, and this is it. You ready? Wait for it. Here we go. Bring back the Housing Commission estates. I know the state government's got a lot of land out there. Now, start building Housing Commission estates. Build the houses. Now, put decent people in. Regulate it more where people actually look after these houses and keep them at a decent price. Because the rental crisis is so bloody high and everyone's looking for houses, people are up in rents and people can't afford it. And there's a lot of single mums out there, single dads, who are busting their ass work and looking after the kids, trying to find a place to live. Now, Housing Commission estates, build them. You know, you don't have to have these cheap rates where the government makes no money. You just can invest. Do it. It's going to help the state government. It's going to help families. It's going to help the economy. It's going to stop this crisis. It's going to lower rent for these private rentals. Look after the people. It's not that hard. Let's do it.
Okay, so it seems that Sydney is now the most expensive place to buy a home in the world. It's not Hong Kong, not San Jose. No. We've finally won something in the prize, a median price of over $1 million. At this rate, I might never be able to eat avocado on toast again. Over the weekend, ABC Finance reporter Alan Collar announced the median price for a dwelling, which is both houses and apartments in Sydney, has hit 1.2 million in May. So it's gone up 0.5% in just 1 month. The part that's truly cooked about all this is that $1.2 million dwelling price is 14.7 times that of the median New South Wales wage, which is about 81 grand. So sustainable, right? In finance circles, there's a relatively well-known yearly report from California's Chapman University called Demographia. They do the math every year on which city is the least affordable to live in. And traditionally, Hong Kong is the winner, but when you account for the new bump in prices here in Australia, we've now overtaken Hong Kong's 14.4 with our 14.7. But unlike Sydney, Hong Kong's prices have been trending downwards. And not gonna lie, I've been living here for a few months now after living in North Queensland, and like Sydney's a cool city and everything, but is it cool enough to have the most expensive housing market in the world? More so than like New York or London? Like, you get the idea. It doesn't really make sense unless you're like super stoked on Luna Park. Obviously, the regions are more affordable, but they are also growing in value, and it's very easy to say move to the regions, but for a lot of people, that's just not an option, whether it's because of work or family. And it's also worth noting that the national average home price has now hit $1 million too. So with stats like this, will we see the government avoid actual change, like the capital gains tax discount or ending negative gearing? Because if there's something I know, Aussies hate being the worst in the world at something. I mean, look at the convoluted ways Australia tried to claim it had won the Olympics per capita. Huh.
2/3 of people believe young Australians will never own a home, and it's really not surprising. So that's according to a survey recently run by The Age, but it kind of ties in well to the rest of the news that's been around the housing market. It's hard to rent, it's hard to buy, it's hard enough even just trying to live. But according to this survey, and from those who already didn't own a home, most of the people affected were low-income to middle-income earners who thought that they would forever be shut out of the housing market. So since 2005, the median house price has climbed to 3.5 times the inflation rate and 2.5 times the increase of weekly average earnings. And rent has also increased. The report found that 42% of people said that their rent had increased in 2023 at an average of about $77. A recent survey by the Australian Council of Social Service found that people on job seeker or youth allowance were the most at risk, with 93% reporting housing stress after having to use 1/3 of their income on rent. And rental vacancies are at historic lows. There's only 1.4% of properties available for rent, and with 650,000 migrants expected to come over in the next 2 years, housing is just going to get worse. So the federal government had a scheme to build 1 million houses over the next 5 years, but it looks like New South Wales is only going to build 180,000, which falls below that target of 314,000. So there are a number of solutions like building new houses or relaxing planning laws, and in the Age survey, 72% of people supported building new houses outside of the city centre or the suburbs they resided in. But that support dropped to 41% if the laws were eased to allow more homes in the person's own suburb. So SBS recently reported that there was an outcry in one of the wealthier suburbs of Sydney after a dilapidated churchyard was going to be turned into low-income housing, with lots of people saying that they had safety concerns. One resident even said that it would create a ghetto-type vibe. So it's drastic times, and now that housing is getting more unaffordable, the lucky ones of us have to choose between starting a family and having their own home. I wouldn't expect any drastic changes soon.
Update time on the whole rental crisis thing that we're going through. They put a sign outside of our house saying the house is up for rent. Now, bear in mind, remember, I signed for the lease renewal. I then got an eviction notice a week later after signing the lease renewal. 2 of the tenants leaving and 2 of the tenants in the premises are leaving. But regardless, 3 of the primary tenants who are full-time workers getting kicked out. Now let's see what they have to say on the website about this house.
The average house price in this country has hit $1 million.
The Airbnbs, we've got all the new folks coming in.
Rent up dramatically, or they got kicked out of their house. The same has happened to me. My rent has gone up dramatically.
2/3 of people believe young Australians will never own a home, and it's really not surprising.
He said to me, this housing crisis in New South Wales is a bloody joke.
People in their mid-20s to late 20s are having to move back in with their parents.
I'm paying $830 a week to live in a house that is a construction site.
But for the next tenants, it's going to be $700.
Okay, so it seems that Sydney is now the most expensive place to buy a home in the world.
This is not easy for me to admit, but me and my family have been struggling for the past 2 months almost. We have been homeless.
I'd rather fight mosquitoes the size of birds in Southeast Asia than pay $700 a week to live in a shoebox with a sink that cries at night.
Rents skyrocketing, homes are vanishing, and landlords are cashing in. Families are priced out, young people are stuck, and owning a home? Forget it. The dream is now just wishful thinking. Subscribe now and help us hit 1,000 subs before the month ends.
First of all, thank you, news.com, for this incredible headline. Love it. Sick. The average house price in this country has hit $1 million. That's fucking great. That's so cool and normal. Not at all anything to be concerned about. An average house price of $1 million is totally fine. Also, Sydney is now the most expensive place to live in the world. So, woo, Australia, sick, heaps good.
Why I refuse to move back to Australia, even as an Australian? Because I'd rather fight mosquitoes the size of birds in Southeast Asia than pay $700 a week to live in a shoebox with a sink that cries at night. Australia, my homeland, my mate, is a financial horror movie. You know what's un-Australian? Charging $9 for a lettuce and offering $22 an hour like that's gonna fix my existential dread. You can't even buy a house unless you win the lottery, sell a kidney, and marry a mining executive. And even then, you'll still be outbid by someone's mum's investment trust. Oh, but you get great wages. Do we? Do we though? Because rent eats your paycheck like it's a buffet for broke people. Then taxes step in. Oi mate, let me hold on to that for ya. Forever. And the job market. If you don't have 5 degrees and a side hustle by the age of 25, you're either a barista or a burnout. And God forbid you ask for a mental health day, they look at you like you asked to burn the Aussie flag with a Bic lighter and a packet of Tim Tams. And let's talk violence. Every pub turns into Thunderdome after 9 p.m. Every bloke named Kev has emotional issues and a neck tattoo, and is one warm pint away from throwing a schooner at your face. Even the birds are aggressive. Magpies wait all year to hunt you down like they're in a Liam Neeson movie. So nah, I'm not coming back. I'll stay right here, thanks. I'll stay here where rent is cheap. Violence is just bad karaoke, and nobody expects me to pretend I like Vegemite anymore. Australia, I love ya, but you're the ex who got hotter, meaner, and way too expensive to deal with.
So the cost of living crisis and the housing crisis in Australia has got to such heights that people in their mid-20s to late 20s are having to move back in with their parents because the price of rent has just skyrocketed. They can't afford to rent there anymore. And these are people with full-time jobs earning $50,000 a year. They can't afford to rent by themselves. They need to move back with their parents or have a few friends live with them. So what's the government doing? You know what I mean? Everything's going up. Something's got to give.
Housing crisis in Sydney. I'm paying $830 a week to live in a house that is a construction site. That's my bedroom. We had no notice. They are putting in new pipes so that they can subdivide the property. How my neighbour can get in, it's just ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. This is my mailbox. That was my garage, which I haven't been able to access now for 3 weeks because it's had pipes. And the landlord took the rent up. Unbelievable. It's my place. Look at this. Absolute disaster. There is no construction barriers or anything. Okay. My neighbour lives up here and he's got children. He lives up there, up that house up there. It is just insane. And I left my bins behind there, so I had to get them out from behind there, and my daughter fell over yesterday and cut her hand. I'm so angry. And yeah, the landlord took the rent up. Unbelievable. And I just want to say, I have lived here 6 months. I moved in 6 months ago. I would never have moved in if I knew that they were going to do this. Obviously, no one would move in. It's my front door.
Put a finger down, renting edition. Put a finger down if you just got your 12-month lease renewal on a property you've lived at for 7 years, in which they propose to raise your rent from $600 per week to $720 per week. This also on the back of the last lease renewal, which was 12 months, which they raised it from $465 to $600, negotiated down from $650. All under the guise of making it comparable with the current market value of the property. Put another finger down if you then attempted to negotiate with the real estate, citing the current economic downturn, the cost of living crisis we're all in, the fact that wages haven't gone up more than 3 or 4% per annum, the fact that there's 1% rental availability in Queensland right now, so even if you could afford to move, which you can't, actually finding somewhere else to move to that wouldn't be worse off is just not financially an option. The fact that we've already copped a significant increase in the last 12 months already, despite there being no changes or additions or moderations made to said property, which is now 7 years old. And the fact that you've been a really good tenant, as cited by the owners numerous times, and while you appreciate that the rent has to increase, you're just hoping to negotiate a slightly more fair and gradual increase to meet said skyrocketing market value, only to be met with continual responses of, we're empathetic, but we couldn't in good conscience allow that for the owner's sake. Put another finger down if, after a lengthy back and forth, they've finally come back and said, look, the owners have liaised with their accountant and there's just no possible way we could go below 720 because, you know, anything below that would be significantly under market value, which is just not fair. And please bear in mind that if you were to vacate and we relisted the property, we could actually achieve $750 per week for the owner. We're only asking you for $720, which again is under the market value, so the rent will be $720 per week on the new lease. To which you respond, well, I'm really disappointed that you've not been willing to negotiate or, you know, come down and meet me even half the way, but being what it is in all the aforementioned points, please resend the DocuSign and we will have it signed by end of day as soon as possible. Put another finger down if less than 24 hours after agreeing to the exorbitant increase, you then get another email from the real estate saying the owner's circumstances have changed and we're now issuing you with the notice to vacate. To which you then ask, can I have more clarification on what's changed so significantly in less than 24 hours? To which the real estate simply just repeats, the owner's circumstances have changed and they will now no longer be offering you a lease renewal. Here's a notice to vacate. Please be out within 2 months. Put a final finger down if you have then spent every available break in your working day furiously contacting the RTA and Q-Star to try and ascertain whether you have any legal standing whatsoever to dispute this, only to be told like the legislation's pretty in favour of the owners and they can just do whatever they want. Yeah, shit's fucked.